be. The truth of the matter is that you are in the driver's seat and you are ultimately determining the direction that your life is taking. And so a lot of people want to acquiesce to situations and circumstances and play the role of a victim and tell their sad story, and they want everybody to feel sorry for them and sympathy for them. And I always tell people sympathy is not a life strategy. Sympathy and pity are not going to take your life to the next level, but responsibility, accountability, and action will be the forces that drive change and growth and development in every aspect of your life. And so where there is no vision, where there is no prophetic utterance, the people cast off restraints and run wild. I think about, the last episode of this podcast was the anniversary episode. It was a big episode, and many of you listened. We looked at the data and analytics, and so many of you wrote some very beautiful and inspiring messages of how my life and work and this platform has so blessed and benefited your life, and I thank you for that. But as I told you in that episode, there was a vision for this podcast, and, that vision was only about 6 months when it began, and that vision has grown into more than a decade of empowerment, and it's still going. And what amazes me is that people are actually still listening to it, because honestly, this was really an experiment for me. I didn't know how it would go. I didn't know how people would react. I didn't know how the response would be, and people have so enjoyed this platform. I hear so many people telling me that they're learning, they're growing. It's like a soul food for them and a boost every time they listen. And so this is one of the things I'm very proud of, as I said in that episode, because it was all trial and error. It's all about figuring it out, and we figured it out, and we're figuring it out more because we want to continue to create content that empowers people to live a greater life. But what I really want to drive home with you today is that you need to get a vision for your life. It's very hard to be motivated when you have nothing to focus on. And so many people are like, Jamel, I don't understand why I have like these bursts of excitement and energy, and then I just go back to average and mediocrity. You don't have a vision. You have anything that you are focusing on that is guiding and governing your life and your movement and the actions that you're taking. And if you want different, then you must begin to steer your life in a different direction. A lot of people are asking for different, but they're not doing anything different. I talked to so many people over the years that will tell me unequivocally, Jamel, I know my life needs to change. Well, you've heard me say this before. It's not enough for you to acknowledge that something needs to change in your life. At some point, you have to take the actual action steps that are going to produce the change. And I think a lot of times we romanticize the idea of change, but we're not willing to make the investments to change. And, a lot of people come to me, and I turn a lot of people down because they want me to mentor, and I don't have the time to mentor everybody. I don't have the time to pour into everybody. But one of the things that I always find so interesting is that everybody has this grand vision and grand idea of what they want their lives to be. And when you begin to tell them about the investments that it's going to take to get to the life that they say they want, I'm amazed at the number of people that give up, throw in the towel, or they start making excuses for why they can't do it. And what amazes me is that we put people on such pedestals that are achieving great things in life, and a pedestal is only an object that is propping something up. In other words, yes, you may put that person on a pedestal, but we all have raw potential. And the difference between you and that individual is that they have taken that raw potential and they have converted it into something purposeful and powerful. And a lot of us are just living pitiful lives, looking for sympathy and hoping for something to change, and we're not doing anything to change it. At some point, you're going to have to make some type of investment in the life that you say that you want. And a lot of people, I tell people, you don't have to be impressed with me. You don't have to be in awe of me. There's not anything particularly special about me at all, but I have done the work. I have developed. I have made an intentional plan in my life to grow and to become the greatest expression of who God created me to be. And everybody has that potential. Everybody can do that and be that, but everybody won't do it, because this is how I like to put it. Greatness calls out to everybody, but very few ever answer its call. And so we have all been called to greatness, and that greatness will look different for every person, because greatness has different facets. It has different layers and dimensions to greatness, but we're all called to greatness. But very few people will ever answer that call, because the call comes at a very high price. I did a post on one of my platforms this week, and I talked about the price that comes with greatness. People will respect you. People will admire you. People will want to be in association with you, but they have no idea what it costs to be who you are. And I look at the people, there are people that have told me and made assumptions as if I have never gone through anything in my life, that every day is sunny and there's never adversity. And I laughed and I said, do you really think that there are people in the world that that's the reality for? I said, nobody has that reality. And when people begin to hear, or they'll read a book, or they'll hear me do an interview, and they'll say, I didn't know, all of that has happened in your life. We can't make assumptions. You have to understand that every person has a journey. And when we can honor and respect that person's journey, we can receive from their lives. But you can't receive from any person that you don't honor and respect. And a lot of us just have an admiration, but we don't really honor and respect the investments and the selflessness that individuals have had to display to become who they are today. And so before we covet somebody else's life, let's think about the commitments that they have had to make to be who they are. And I think that when you look at things from that perspective, it really begins to change your mindset around success and greatness and reaching your full potential. The first 3 months of this year have pushed and challenged me in ways that I've never been challenged before. As I manage business and personal goals, I find myself being stretched to new levels and challenged to embrace new realms. And you heard me kind of talk about that in the opening of the show today. One of the things that you have to really guard against is a limited mindset, or better yet, living your life adjusted to an old paradigm. I talk to so many people that have all the potential in the world. They show great promise, but they live adjusted to an old paradigm. And I always tell people that old ways of thinking will never unlock new ways of living. And so we keep going back to thought patterns and processes that did not work in a previous season, and they won't work in this season. And what happens is, instead of developing a bulletproof mindset, we develop a restricted and limited mindset, because your mind has to be stretched to new ideas and new concepts and new philosophies and new information. And so many times we don't want to do the things that are necessary for the mind to be stretched to new heights. And a lot of times we'll say, oh, it's too hard, or oh, it's too difficult, or oh, this is beyond me. We make all the excuses, but you have to stretch your thinking in different areas to different levels. And the only way that you stretch your thinking to new levels is, really two ways. Pressure has to be applied to your life. And number two, you have to be exposed to new information, new people, new places. And as you do that, you begin to shift your paradigm, your perspective begins to change, and you begin to create a different reality for yourself. As I'm going after audacious goals in my life this year, I find myself once again coming face to face of self-limiting beliefs and perceptions that stand between me and the attainment of my goals. As if 2023 didn't challenge my thinking enough, I'm being challenged again to think at a higher level and to think differently. If you are not